Hello again, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of the This Week in History show presented by the Scumbags of Wrestling. We are here in London. It's Thursday afternoon, 12 noon to be precise, and we are your lunchtime deep dive into the rich history of our great sport, that being professional wrestling. We are going to look at the week of July 16th through July 22nd today. But before we get all that, we want to remind you that we are brought to you by our sponsors, Coolbet. Remind you to stay cool and bet responsibly. Plus, you can always go over to our Pro Wrestling Tees store at prowrestlingtees.com/scumbagswrestling and purchase any of our 4 t-shirts. Of course, if you buy the Ontario Independent Wrestling comic book cover, you're going to be supporting Steven's wrestling journey with his research for Chiari malformation through Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto. And I don't have the banner, but I want to let you know we are also part of the All Ontario Cup, and we are one of the legendary fan sponsors of it. And be on the lookout for the All Ontario Cup, featuring 30 of the top stars of the Ontario scene in a tournament format. We're going to kick that off shortly, and it's put together by our friends over at Barrie Wrestling. So check out the All Ontario Cup and support it and support us, because we're going to be involved with it a lot. So we are thankful for you to join us on YouTube and on Facebook. And of course, we're available on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else you get podcasts from. You're always available, whether you're in the car or on the walk, and you can catch us at any time. We are part of the Ontario Independent Podcasting Network here in Ontario and the Johners Podcasting Network in the UK. So we want to thank everybody for their sponsorship and support. Be sure to like us, support us, leave a comment, and help grow this community. But like I said right from the start, we're here for the week of July 16th to the 22nd, and we can't do that without our narrator of our history, Jonsey in Niagara Falls. How are you?
Oh, I'm not too bad. Just got my second shot, so I'm a little groggy. Got it yesterday. And there's a storm of brewing here, and I think there's a storm of brewing where you are. So if one of us goes out, the other one will just kind of take over and continue on.
Yeah, there is one brewing here in London. For those, obviously, knowing that we record this early than Thursday afternoon, because we both work during the afternoon. But it is Tuesday evening, and storms are coming through. But it's been really hazy with fires from the north blowing the smoke down this way. The sun's been looking like we're on Tatooine, and seeing the haze and the red ball in the sun as opposed to a yellow or orange one, depending on your perspective. But yeah, it's been really hazy in the mornings, and seeing that rise up above the horizon, it's like, oh my god, am I going to see some droids around here? But thankfully,
Well, I know our meteorologist here at This Week in History has told us that it's supposed to. I believe on Wednesday we're supposed to get lots of sun, especially in Toronto, but the smoke may return.
Yeah, the smoke is supposed to blow out with this storm, so we'll see what brings our way. And yeah, I also got my second shot this past weekend, and so I'm just ready and waiting for any indie shows to come along that I hopefully physically can attend. Did see New School Wrestling this past weekend. They had a YouTube show, and it's starting to pop up all over Ontario, and it looks like we'll be bringing back the Ontario Indie Road Trip show to give a rundown of everything that's going on.
It's going to be a busy fall.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to start with July 16th. We're going back 33 years ago. Frank Goodish, a.k.a. Bruiser Brody, is fatally stabbed in his shower stall in Bayamon, Puerto Rico. He would die the next day from extreme blood loss. We've covered the story back in June on his birthday. Quite a sad story. And who would have known if he would have what he would have done if he would have not been murdered?
Yeah, he definitely inspired a lot of people, and unfortunately, from my understanding, I don't think anybody got charged on the whole thing, which is a damn shame.
Yep, a damn shame. 31 years ago, WWF taped the 27th edition of Saturday Night's Main Event. It would air 12 days later on NBC. This episode would set up the two main events at SummerSlam. Hogan would return after being squished by Earthquake on the Brother Love show. You know, they couldn't get that stain out for months. And the Ultimate Warrior would beat Ravishing Rick Rude by DQ. This would provide the rule for the steel cage match for the IC belt.
Actually, that was for the world title.
What was part of the world title?
The Warrior Rude match at SummerSlam that year.
Oh, that was for the world title? Oh, I must have been smoking something there. We're just going to put in world title, and that's why we have Shawn here.
Yeah, they did the IC title at WrestleMania 5, so this was
man, that's what I got all confused about.
Rude was there with his short hair this time. Rude is credited with being one of the only guys who could actually tolerate the Warrior enough to give him decent matches.
On the card, we had Demolition defeated and that was Smash and Crush, defeated the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty to retain the WWF Tag Team Championship. Mr. Perfect would defeat Tito Santana to retain the WWF IC belt. And the Texas Tornado defeated Buddy Rose.
With his blowaway diet.
26 years ago, WCW presented Bash at the Beach from Huntington Beach, California. The show took place on the beach as fans could watch the show for free. WCW claimed 100,000 fans in attendance, while actual numbers were close to 10,000. The show was also being taped for an episode of Baywatch titled Bash at the Beach. Making his debut as the son of Andre the Giant, he would throw a giant shirt similar to what Andre would wear. They dropped the son of Andre storyline over time, perhaps because Andre never had a son, but a daughter. Harlem Heat, Booker T and Stevie Ray defeated the Nasty Boys, Knobs and Sags, and the Blue Bloods, consisting of Lord Steven Regal and Earl Robert Eaton, in a triangle match to retain the WCW World Tag Team Championship. Also, Randy Savage defeated Ric Flair in a lifeguard lumberjack match, serving as the lumberjacks were extras from Baywatch. And Hulk Hogan defeated Vader in a steel cage match to retain the WCW Heavyweight Championship. This was Vader's last WCW pay-per-view appearance before being fired. A little bit of Porky Pig there. 21 years ago, ECW presented Heat Wave 2000 from California. At the event, LA-based promotion XPW would buy ringside tickets, and after XPW valet Christy Mist grabbed Francine, pandemonium would ensue. After the ECW locker room emptied, security would escort the XPW wrestlers out of the arena, where after the show they'd get their asses kicked before escaping in a limo. Some say this was a work, others claim it was a shoot. Just Incredible defeated Tommy Dreamer in a Stairway to Hell ladder match to retain the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. I'm not sure how it can be a stairway to hell when hell is down and they're climbing up. So anyways, I'm sure it was a decent match though. 20 years ago, Terry Ray Gordy Sr. died of a heart attack caused by a blood clot. He was just 40 years old. Terry Gordy would form the Fabulous Freebirds along with Michael Hayes and later Buddy Roberts. He would also form the Miracle Violence connection with Steve Williams and hold the IWPG tag titles 5 times, and Gordy himself would become a 2-time All Japan Triple Crown winner. Near the end of his career, he would have a brief run in WWF as the Masked Executioner. And his son Terry Jr. would wrestle for WWE as Jesse and later Slam Master J. Terry Jr. And he would retire in 2005.
Yeah, his daughter, I think, is now in wrestling. I'm not sure what her name is, but I have seen some photos that he has a daughter that has laced up the boots.
Interesting. 15 years ago, TNA presented Victory Road. Senshi defeated Kazarian to retain the TNA X Division Championship. Raven defeated Larry Zbyszko in a hair versus hair match. Sting defeated Scott Steiner, Samoa Joe, and Christian Cage in a Road to Victory match to earn a TNA World Heavyweight Championship match at Hard Justice. And it's a happy 45th birthday to Franklin Roberto Lashley, a.k.a. Bobby Lashley. Lashley was born July 16, 1976 in Junction City, USA. He is the current WWE champion and is a former mixed martial artist and armed forces veteran. I did not know he was in his mid-40s. Wow. Great shape. July 17th, 31 years ago in Japan, Terry Gordy defeated Stan Hansen to win the All Japan Pro Wrestling Triple Crown Championship. He wouldn't hold on to it long as Gordy ends up in the hospital 10 days later recovering from an overdose of painkillers.
And there's a picture of him as the 4th and 6th Triple Crown winner.
Wow. That's what wrestlers looked like back in our day.
Yeah, they weren't very built, unlike Bobby Lashley.
Yeah. 27 years ago, WCW presented the first ever Bash at the Beach from Orlando, Florida. The pay-per-view numbers more than doubled from the previous pay-per-view as Hogan would face Ric Flair for the first time televised. Antonio Inoki attended and received an award for his contributions to wrestling. On the card, Vader defeated the Guardian Angel by DQ. Terry Funk and Bunkhouse Buck defeated Dustin Rhodes and Arn Anderson. Steve Austin defeated Ricky Steamboat to retain the WCW US belt. Pretty Wonderful Paul Roma and Paul Orndorff defeated Cactus Jack and Kevin Sullivan to win the WCW World Tag Team Championship. And with Mr. T and NBA star Shaquille O'Neal, Hulk Hogan defeated Ric Flair to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship.
Shocking that he'd win it on his first match in WCW.
Shocking. But you know what? I guys like Ric Flair and that I give it to them because like he has said before, most of his big matches he never won. But he helped make a lot of stars. 21 years ago on Nitro from Auburn Hills, Michigan, Lance Storm defeated Mike Awesome by submission in the finals of a one-night tournament to win the WCW United States Championship. The belt was vacated when Scott Steiner used the then-banned Steiner recliner and had his U.S. title stripped.
Yeah, and that's when Lance went on his belt collecting ways and started changing every belt to a Canadian-themed name.
Mm-hmm. Looks nice. Good belt. 17 years ago in Elizabeth, New Jersey, Doug Williams defeated Alex Shelley in the finals of a one-night tournament to win the vacated ROH Pure Championship. 16 years ago, TNA presented No Surrender. This match was to qualify for the Super X Cup tournament. Monty Brown and Kip James defeated 3 Live Crew, Ron Killings, and Conan in a street fight. AJ Styles defeated Sean Waltman. Jerry Lynn was the guest referee. Christopher Daniels defeated Petey Williams to retain the TNA X Division belt. And Raven defeated Abyss in a dog collar match to retain the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. After the match, Jarrett would appear and said he would get his title back one way or another. Then Rhino made his TNA debut and gored Raven. 16 years ago in Sapporo, Japan, Hiroshi Tanahashi defeated Giant Bernard in the finals of a one-night tournament to win the vacated IWGP Heavyweight Championship. The title was vacated when Brock Lesnar and IWGP couldn't come to terms. And I'm giving myself a nice little Barry Horowitz pat on the back for nailing that name. 14 years ago at a SmackDown taping in Texas, this SmackDown taping was originally scheduled for Edmonton, but due to the Benoit situation, they moved it to stateside. Edge would forfeit the World Heavyweight Championship due to torn left pectoral muscle he suffered a week earlier. Later in the show, the Great Khali won a 20-man over-the-top battle royal to win the vacated World Heavyweight Championship. The night would end with the setup for the main event at the next pay-per-view as Batista and Kane, the last 2 men eliminated in the Battle Royal, fought to a no contest in a number 1 contenders match. 10 years ago, sorry, go ahead.
And of course, Khali holding that big gold belt upside down.
I don't take him as being a guy who pays attention to details. And I'm not saying he's dumb, because he's definitely not. He was a police officer and done a lot of good stuff. But unfortunately, that stuff happens.
Yep.
Get in the moment and you forget. 10 years ago, but hey, when you're that big, what are they going to do? 10 years ago, WWE presented Money in the Bank from the Allstate Arena in Rosemont, Illinois. The main event had CM Punk in his last WWE match, as he vowed to take the WWE title with him. Meltzer gave this the best show and match of the year. Daniel Bryan defeated Cody Rhodes, Heath Slater, Justin Gabriel, Kane, Sheamus, Sin Cara, and Wade Barrett in a SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match. Alberto Del Rio defeated Rey Mysterio, Kofi Kingston, The Miz, Alex Riley, Evan Bourne, R-Truth, and Jack Swagger in a Raw Money in the Bank ladder match. Christian defeated Randy Orton by a DQ to win the World Heavyweight Championship. Christian won on a DQ due to pre-match stipulations. Orton was disqualified due to a low blow. CM Punk defeated John Cena to win the WWE Championship. After the bell, Alberto Del Rio failed to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase as he was roundhouse kicked by Punk.
Yeah, that one. Unfortunately, CM Punk re-signed too quickly after that whole thing. Whether he was signed or not going into the match with Cena, I think it got leaked out that later on that he had re-signed or something like that. But if they had found a way of keeping quiet, I would have kept Punk off as long as possible, because I think after this match, he did show a picture on Twitter with the title in his fridge or something, because they were in Chicago for this. But I think even if he had re-signed and that's why he got given the belt and all this other stuff, if they kept it quiet long enough, then he could have kept on showing up at different places with the title. I know they recrowned a new champion, and eventually they had Cena against Punk again to crown an undisputed champion. I think it was at SummerSlam or something like that. But it was a story that went down way too quickly. They could have had more life out of Punk holding the title hostage, I think.
They sure could have, but they didn't. And especially when you have more than one major belt, why not? And it's a happy 35th birthday to Lacey Atkinson, a.k.a. Lacey Von Erich. She is the daughter of the Texas Tornado and granddaughter of Fritz Von Erich. She spent some time in TNA and WrestleLicious. She retired and opened up an advertising agency. It's a happy 47th birthday to Shannon Claire Speroli, a.k.a. Daphne. The former Screaming WCW Cruiserweight Champion has also worked in Shimmer, Shine, and WrestleLicious. Her name there was Draculetta. And today would have been the 62nd birthday of NWA and WCW referee Randy Anderson.
I'll always remember Randy Anderson for that time with being in WCW and getting fired by Eric Bischoff, and bringing his kids to try and get his job back, and Eric laughing in his kid's face and stuff like that. And apparently, whatever town Randy Anderson lived in, they took it so seriously that they thought it was legit, that they petitioned to get his job back. It was like a big hoopla where he came from.
Well, I wasn't a big fan of WCW, but I remember I wrote a couple letters, strongly worded, to Eric Bischoff about this. I personally thought Randy Anderson should be fired. Anyways, July 18th, 41 years ago in Chicago, Vern Gagne defeated Nick Bockwinkel to win the AWA World Heavyweight Championship for the 10th and final time. 32 years ago, WWF taped the 22nd edition of Saturday Night's Main Event. Hulk Hogan defeated the Honky Tonk Man to retain the WWF Championship. Brutus Beefcake defeated Randy Savage by DQ. The Brain Busters, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard defeated Demolition Axe and Smash in a 2-1 in a best of 3 falls match to win the WWF Tag Team Championship.
Yeah, and this was also a night that it set up the main event for SummerSlam 89 with the tag team match of Hogan and Beefcake taking on Zeus and Savage with Sherry in their corner. As this picture has them holding off Zeus from beating up Beefcake anymore.
Yeah, hey, the left side of performers is gone, and the right side is still alive.
Yeah, shockingly.
28 years ago, WCW presented Beach Blast from Biloxi, Mississippi, which would be the final WCW NWA pay-per-view. WCW would go on its own at the end of summer 93. Paul Orndorff defeated Ron Simmons by DQ to retain the WCW World Television Championship. Dustin Rhodes and Rick Rude fought to a 1-1 draw in a 30-minute Iron Man match for the vacated NWA United States Championship. Ric Flair defeated Barry Windham to win the NWA Heavyweight Championship for the 10th and final time. NWA only recognizes 9 of his 10 NWA reigns. And Sting and Davey Boy Smith defeated the masters of the Powerbomb, Big Van Vader and Sid Vicious. 22 years ago, ECW presented Heatwave 99. Balls Mahoney and Spike Dudley defeated the Dudley Boys, Bubba Ray and Devon, in a Dayton Street fight to win the ECW World Tag Team Championship. 14 years ago, George Cazazzo, a.k.a. John Kronos, died due to heart failure resulting from an enlarged heart. A recent knee injury may have contributed to his death. He was 38, and he was one half of the Eliminators with Perry Saturn. 11 years ago, WWE presented the first Money in the Bank from Kansas City. Kane defeated Big Show, Matt Hardy, Kofi Kingston, Christian, Cody Rhodes, Dolph Ziggler, and Drew McIntyre in a SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match. And Kane would cash in his briefcase after Mysterio's swagger match and defeated Rey Mysterio to win the World Heavyweight Championship. The Miz defeated Edge, Randy Orton, Chris Jericho, Evan Bourne, Ted DiBiase, John Morrison, and Mark Henry in a Raw Money in the Bank ladder match. And Sheamus defeated John Cena in a steel cage match to retain the WWE Championship. 8 years ago, TNA presented Destination X on a very special episode of Impact from Kentucky. Chris Sabin defeated Bully Ray to win the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. And finishing off that day is a happy 52nd birthday to Manzori Murakawa, good enough, a.k.a. the Great Suzuki. He founded Michinoku Pro Wrestling, is a former IWGP Junior Heavyweight Single and Tag Champ, and is the first legislator elected to wear a mask.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Happy birthday to the Great Suzuki.
July 19th. 61 years ago in Minnesota, Vern Gagne and Leo Namalini defeated Murder Inc., Tiny Mills, and Stan Kowalski to win the AWA World Tag Team Championship. 12 years ago, TNA presented Victory Road. Wrestling Observer newsletter readers voted this the worst major show of the year with 82% of the first place of votes. This was also the TNA debut of Taz. Few of the matches on the card saw Angelina Love defeat Tara to win the TNA Knockouts belt. Jenna Moraska defeated Charmel. This match was voted worst work match of the year.
Yeah, it was a stinker.
Oh, yeah? I never seen. Kevin Nash defeated AJ Styles to win the TNA Legends Championship. And Booker T and Scott Steiner defeated Beer Money Inc. to win the TNA World Tag Team Championship. Samoa Joe defeated Sting, and the main event had Kurt Angle defeat Mick Foley to retain the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. 6 years ago, WWE presented Battleground from, you know what? I got something that came across my mind here. Is it kind of silly to me that they had, Kevin Nash defeating AJ Styles, and that was for the Legends Championship. Shouldn't Kevin Nash have been fighting Mick Foley?
Yeah, well, the Legends title was only a Legends belt in name only, because anybody could have had it. Like, it didn't really divide the roster between age bracket or anything like that.
Yeah, that's silly.
It's like might as well just had a U.S. title or IC belt or anything like that.
Mm.
But they just called it a Legends belt. And that, if you look at the lineage, it was so many different things as well over the time. Like it just changed name week after week.
Moving on now, 6 years ago, WWE presented Battleground from Missouri. In a pre-show match, King Barrett defeated R-Truth to retain the King of the Ring crown. Charlotte defeated Brie Bella and Sasha Banks by submission in a triple threat match. And Brock Lesnar defeated Seth Rollins by DQ in a WWE World Heavyweight Championship match. The Undertaker would make his return since WrestleMania, defeating Bray Wyatt. Moving on to July 20th, 58 years ago, Vern Gagne defeated the Crusher in Minneapolis, Minnesota to win the AWA World Heavyweight belt for the fourth time.
This week has been an important week in the life of Vern Gagne.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, some of them, it's just bam, bam, bam. 48 years ago, Jack Briscoe defeated Harley Race in Houston, Texas to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. 29 years ago, at a house show, the natural disasters, earthquake and typhoon, defeated Money Inc., Ted DiBiase and IRS, in Worcester, Massachusetts, to win the WWF World Tag Team Championships.
One of those special nights where anything can happen on a house show, and probably get flipped back.
And I like it. I like it when they do that. Once in a while, you have to let a belt change hand at a house show.
Yeah, because then people think that anything can happen instead of going, oh, well, that's a championship match. We know who's going to retain. And then, oh my God. And then those who sat at home going, no, I'm okay without seeing that, are going, no, why? I missed that.
Damn, I should have gone to that show. Arg. 23 years ago on Nitro, Scott Hall and the Giant defeated Sting and Kevin Nash to win the WCW World Tag Team Championship. Also in the main event, Bret Hart defeated Diamond Dallas Page to win the vacated WCW United States Championship. Oh, pardon my God. Goldberg vacated the title due to winning the worked belt. And over on Raw, D'Lo Brown defeated Triple H to win the WWF European Championship.
Oh, you better recognize.
You did recognize.
Yeah, D'Lo's over on Impact Wrestling now doing commentary for them.
Nice. 13 years ago, WWE presented the Great American Bash from the Nassau Coliseum. This event is the last WWE pay-per-view with a TV 14 rating, as they would transition to a PG rating for future pay-per-views. As well, this was the first Divas Championship match. Festus and Finlay and Hornswoggle in a fatal four-way match to win the WWE Tag Team Championship. Shelton Benjamin defeated Matt Hardy to win the WWE United States Championship. Michelle McCool defeated Natalya to become the first WWE Divas Champion. CM Punk and Batista went to a double DQ for the World Heavyweight Championship. JBL defeated John Cena in a New York City parking lot brawl. And Triple H defeated Edge to retain the WWE Championship.
The parking lot brawl was actually a really decent brawl. Set up really nicely, and considering who was involved with it, both men looked really good against each other.
Cool. Well, that's good. Because JBL, he's okay. But,
Yeah, it depends on who he's with.
Yeah. 9 years ago, Shine Wrestling would present its first event. Made in Sin, Taylor Made and Allison Kay defeated West Coast Connection, which was Tracy Taylor and Sue Young. Christina Von Erie defeated Cherry Bomb, and Jazz defeated Sarah Del Rey. July 21st, 40 years ago in Allentown, Pennsylvania, Tony Gurria and Rick Martel defeated the Moondogs, Rex and Spot, to win the WWF Tag Team Championship. Gurria is the first wrestler in the WWF to hold the tag titles 5 times.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised seeing this. That I know it happened and all that, but I don't know. For some reason, I couldn't wrap my mind around the fact that Rick Martel was there in WWF before the Can-Am connection. Because I know he was in the AWA and a former AWA champion and stuff like that. But I just picture, because of my time frame of starting to watch wrestling, I picture Rick Martel and Tom Zenk as being Rick's original run there. And then when Zenk left, he became Strike Force with Tito and then the Model and stuff like that. But to think that he actually held WWE Gold prior to that, and in this case with Korea, yeah.
Yep, some things like that. I'm not sure if it's this week or next week. There's a little thing about Bo Nakano. She wrestled in a WWF ring long before she had her run with Alundra Blaze. 37 years ago in Charlotte, North Carolina, Tully Blanchard defeated Magnum TA to win the NWA United States Championship. 26 years ago in Tampa, Florida, Dean Malenko defeated Eddie Guerrero to win the ECW World Television Championship. The Mikey Whipwreck and Sandman match would have the Sunshine Network pull the episode and ECW off the network for a short period due to the brutal canoeing that Mikey Whipwreck would take after the match. Caning. That's not canoeing, caning. I thought, okay, canoeing means it's like waterboarding. But anyways, Marty Jannetty would try to save Mikey, but he too received a caning from the Sandman. And after the main event of the Public Enemy, Johnny Grunge and Flyboy Rocco Rock defeating the Gangstas, New Jack and Mustafa, fans rushed to the ring to celebrate and would fill the ring until it collapsed. This clip would be used many times and become part of ECW's opening clip montage. Here we go. 19 years ago, WWE presented Vengeance from the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit. Do I have the right one? Oh, there we go. Yeah, I took out that In Your House 9 International Incident, but since you have it, we'll read it anyways. 25 years ago, WWF presented In Your House 9 International Incident from General Motors Place in Vancouver, British Columbia. We saw Steve Austin defeat Mark Merrow. The Undertaker defeated Goldust by DQ. And Camp Cornette, Owen Hart, the British Bulldog, and Vader defeated the People's Posse, Ahmed Johnson, Shawn Michaels, and Psycho Sid.
Yeah, to imagine that this was supposed to be Warrior instead of Sid in there just kind of is weird.
That is weird.
And then Steve Austin and Mark Merrow. Steve has said numerous times that he hates working with Mark Merrow. There's actually this recent something that wrestled with Bruce Pritchard that actually runs this whole card down and stuff behind the scenes, and Warrior disappearing and stuff like that and getting fired and bringing in Sid. Thankfully, it wasn't softball season, but yeah, and figuring out what the directions would have been if Warrior had been there, and where things did go. Yeah, it's a good listen.
All right, duly noted. 19 years ago, WWE presented Vengeance from the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit. Bubba and Spike Dudley defeated Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero in a tables match. RVD defeated Brock Lesnar by DQ to retain the WWE Intercontinental Championship. The Un-Americans, Christian and Lance Storm, defeated Hulk Hogan and Edge to win the WWE Tag Team Championship. And The Rock defeated Kurt Angle and The Undertaker in a triple threat match to win the WWE Championship for a seventh time, a record at the time.
Yeah, now you got somebody like John Cena, who has actually 16 and is going for number 17 if he goes against Roman at SummerSlam. But
I have a sneaky feeling that someone's going to interfere. Something's going to happen where maybe Cena will get that belt eventually again, but I think they might wait till like WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think at the same time, and this we'll save fully for SummerSlam preview. But yeah, I don't see, because of the role that Cena has currently in the world of entertainment, and that he is going to be a special attraction. And I don't think they ever want to have him beat Ric Flair's 16. Tie, they're okay with. Beat, probably not.
Maybe he'll win it, but then it will be stripped from him. 16 years ago, hey, maybe Ric Flair will come in and knock him out. 16 years ago, manager, wrestler, and commentator Lord Alfred George James Hayes died following a series of strokes in Dallas, Texas. He was 76. He was born in Jollygood, England in 1928. He had been known as Judo Al Hayes from the late 50s through the 70s. Hayes had a black belt in judo. Hayes would join the WWF in 82. In 1984, he would become the Ed McMahon for Vince on the WWF talk show Tuesday Night Titans. He was born August 8, 1928 in London, England. Hayes worked on the British wrestling circuit. He would serve as a commentator and an interviewer and enjoyed some skits on Saturday night's Main Event. For most of the time, he would be a face but would cheer on the bad guys later in his career. Hayes would be let go from the WWF due to budget cuts. Shortly after, he would be confined to a wheelchair after losing part of his leg in an automobile accident. He would be seen in the short-lived AWF in 96. He was survived by his son and daughter along with 3 grandchildren. Posthumously, he was inducted into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2014. Occasionally, WWE still uses his voiceover from some old school themed episodes of Raw since his passing. He's one of those guys you love him or hate him. He was annoying at times, but I thought, especially for that time, he was pretty good commentator. He was goofy at times. I think he did some extracurricular activity with a bottle in the back before he went on the commentating part, but he was pretty good. I didn't mind him.
Yeah, I remember one Saturday Night's Main Event from Frankenmuth, or at least the skits were done in Frankenmuth, and the event was probably done in Detroit, but it was Oktoberfest themed, and him and Gene Orkerlin were doing stuff involving cheese or something like that. Or no, he was actually, I think he was with the Bushwhackers and doing cheese, but he didn't have his earpiece in, and then he finally hooked up with Gene, and they were yelling at each other for not hearing each other and stuff like that. So they were doing comedy skits that way. Alfred kind of also reminds me in his role of being equivalent to WCW AWA's version of Lee Marshall.
Yeah.
The C-string sort of guy that was there, great utility player, but not the major guy.
Mm-hmm. 12 years ago at a TNA Impact taping, the British Invasion, Brutus Magnus and Doug Williams defeated Team 3D, Brother Ray and Brother Devon, in a tables match to win the IWGP Tag Team Championship. The title change would not be recognized until August 10th by New Japan. In the main event, Bobby Lashley and Mick Foley defeated Kevin Nash and Kurt Angle. Because Foley got the pinfall on Nash, Foley won the TNA Legends Championship.
Yeah, I love wacky rules
wacky rules.
Numerous
9 years ago, sorry, go ahead.
Of numerous belts on the line, and one belt changes if you get pinned. I don't know.
Yep. Let's see. I think we were at 9 years ago at a Metro Pro Wrestling taping. Adam Pearce defeated Colt Cabana in a 2-out-of-3 match to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship for the 5th and final time. Finishing off with July 22nd, 26 years ago in Uniondale, New York, Vince McMahon is acquitted of 1 count of conspiracy to distribute steroids. Early in the week, 2 counts of steroid distribution were dismissed due to lack of evidence. Out of 11 witnesses called by the prosecution, only Kevin Walsh, I don't even know how to say his last name, Nails, would testify that Vince McMahon directed him to use steroids. Well, wouldn't believe that lying piece of shit.
He was very bitter about other things and was accusing people of sexual assault, and that's why he ended up getting fired. He was very bitter, and so it's not surprising somebody like that spoke up. But I guess listening to, once again, things like Something to Wrestle With, and also Jim Cornette's experience in the drive-thru, there's talk about that time period, and Jerry Jarrett was brought in to take over if Vince did go to jail, and Vince actually thought that was quite the possibility, and he was thanking his lucky stars that Jerry McDevitt ended up getting him off and he got acquitted, and then life continued on as it will. But imagine the world of wrestling if Vince had gone to jail and Jerry Jarrett was running WWF. I don't know where we'd be today.
I would say we would be talking about WCW's Bash at the Beach this year. That's what I think would have happened.
Most likely, because I don't think Jerry Jarrett would have been able to stand up to Eric Bischoff and at least have the grit and determination that Vince did to be down for 83 weeks and still come back swinging and defeat and buy your competition. I don't see Jerry Jarrett being that guy.
25 years ago on Monday Night Raw from Seattle, Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson defeated the Smoking Guns, Billy and Bart, via DQ in a WWF Tag Team Championship match. The DQ was caused by the debuting Ron Simmons as Farouk Assad. Farouk would attack Ahmed Johnson. Thankfully, he would drop the silly headgear and would become the Ron Simmons Farouk that we all liked.
Yeah, he became a black militant, got rid of the stereotypical African-American man with a pretty blonde white girl, which I think a lot of people thought were, I heard backstage in one of the other podcasts, that people were a little bit uncomfortable with that sort of stereotype image afterwards as well, even after getting rid of the gladiator gear. It was a combination that did not work.
Well, I don't see the problem with Sonny being with him. I mean, look, he cares about her. He's wearing a safety equipment.
Yeah, very great.
Problem was he looked too much like an American gladiator.
Yeah, it looked utterly ridiculous, and thankfully he became the leader of the Nation of Domination and went that route, and then of course being more himself with the APA and with John Layfield.
All right, 24 years ago on Nitro from Jackson, Florida, Ultimo Dragon defeated Lord Steven Regal to win the WCW World TV title. 20 years ago, WWF presented Invasion. Invasion became the most ordered pay-per-view that was not a WrestleMania. The show was focused on the WWF superstars taking on the coalition alliance of WCW and ECW in a series of matches. Earl Hebner defeated Nick Patrick. Mick Foley was a special referee. Tajiri defeated Taz. Rob Van Dam defeated Jeff Hardy to win the WWF Hardcore Championship. And Booker T, Diamond Dallas Page, Rhino, and the Dudley Boys defeated Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho, The Undertaker, and Kane in the inaugural Brawl match. End of the match had Austin stunning Angle, costing his team the match.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was very watered down. And I know one time we thought about doing a rebooking idea or just what could have been different. And unfortunately, too many guys with Turner deals, and smartly so, mind you, sat at home and healed up and got free money for not working and waiting to go to WWF at the time and work for them. But had they waited for these contracts to end and subtly just bring them in under the WWE banner and keep them going and then do the surprise, as much as I love the initial introduction of the alliance that I think we talked about a couple weeks ago, the execution a lot of fans crapped on because of the lack of star power. And it's no knock on them, your top two WCW stars were Booker T and DDP. How much extra can you invest in a legit fight between the two? And then they had Steve Austin switch sides just to boost up the power of WCW and ECW. And that's the guy who got fired by WCW and used ECW as a platform to get to WWF. Like, he had no real connection to them legitimately or logically. but they did it, and it was the worst time period having Austin as heel. You lost The Rock, and you don't have all these other guys there, and Steve as a heel, just people were turned off from. And it's bad enough that the fans of WCW didn't follow the WCW talent over to WWF to continue the support. You saw viewers just go, okay, we're done. That's gone. And it could have been so much better had they let for a slow burn and got all their eggs in one basket and then pulled the trigger. Like Eric Bischoff said that apparently he was called by JR to possibly have a job, but because they didn't have a direct direction for him and any concrete plans, they just were wanting to talk. He didn't return the phone call. And it was months later in the next year, that he actually showed up. So it was all about timing, and it could have been better. However, I do love the melding of the Vince and Shane face.
Yes, very well done.
Whoever did that was great, being able to match them up the way they did.
19 years ago on Raw from Grand Rapids, Michigan, RVD defeated Jeff Hardy in a title-for-title ladder match to unify the IC and European championships. The end of the show had Brock Lesnar declaring himself a free agent and leaving for SmackDown. 14 years ago, WWE presented the Great American Bash. Hornswoggle defeated Chavo Guerrero, Funaki, Hornswoggle, Jamie Noble, Jimmy Wang Yang, and Shannon Moore to win the WWE Cruiserweight Championship. The title would be put to rest a couple months later. Carlito defeated the Sandman in a Singapore cane on a pole match. Randy Orton defeated Dusty Rhodes in a Texas Bull Rope match. The Great Khali defeated Batista and Kane in a triple threat match to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. And John Cena defeated Bobby Lashley to retain the WWE Championship. This would be Lashley's last WWE belt until his return to WWE in 2018. 9 years ago in Japan, New Japan Pro would see 3 titles change hands on the last of 30 days celebrating the 40th anniversary tour. On the 30th and final day of New Japan Pro Wrestling's 40th anniversary tour in Yamagata, Tenji Koju, which is Hiroshi Tenzan and Satoshi Kojima, defeated Chaos, consisting of Takashi Iizuka and Toru Yano, to win the vacated IWGP Tag Team Championship. Forever Hooligans, Alex Kozlov and Rocky Romero defeated Jushin Thunder Liger and Tiger Mask 4 to win the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. And Shinsuke Nakamura defeated Hiroki Goto, or Gutu. Maybe it's Gutu or Goto. Do you know? Goto? Anyways, Goto, to win the IWGP IC belt. It's a happy 38th birthday today in Chris Jonathan Hussey, a.k.a. Johnny Curtis, a.k.a. Fandango. And whoever that cop guy is, what was he called there?
That's Fandango.
He's still Fandango there? He was just dressing up like a cop?
They were the fashion police. Him and
the fashion police, okay.
And, of course, they just recently got released. So who knows where Johnny Curtis is going to end up next.
He is a funny guy. He's good with improv. I forget what show that was that WWE was doing, where they were doing, little vignettes and jokes and shit like that. They would have an entrance set up at a coffee shop. Yeah, I enjoyed him on that. It's a happy 40th birthday to Kenny Lane, a.k.a. Kenny King. He is a former Chippendales dancer who was a contestant on the second season of Tough Enough. He would wrestle in ROH, winning their tag titles as one half of All Night Express, and spend a little time in TNA, then return to ROH. Today would have been the 60s. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, in this picture, he was also a contestant on The Bachelor.
Really? Oh, I did not know that. Let's see. We're on to Kenny King. I know we already did him. All right. Today would have been the 62nd birthday of David Atkinson, a.k.a. the Yellow Rose of Texas, David Von Erich. And today would have also been the 81st birthday of George Alexander Trebek, of course, Alex Trebek of Jeopardy! He was at WrestleMania 7 in 91 as a backstage interviewer and as a ring announcer for the main event. Trebek would pass away in November of 2020 from pancreatic cancer. And that is it for this week in wrestling history. Of course, it's compiled from the vast land of Google, Wikipedia, CageSideSeats.com, and as always, most importantly, from fans and journalists that had front row seats to history. And a big thank you to our sponsor, as always, Coolbet. Stay cool, bet responsibly. And there you go. That's this week.
Yeah, so thank you for doing that. We got in just under an hour. I think last week we ran a little bit longer than an hour, but that's okay. Rich history.
We try to do an hour, but sometimes it just
a lot of things.
There's a lot. This week didn't have as many big moments.
Yeah, unless you're a Vern Gagne fan.
Yeah, unless you're a Vern Gagne fan, then we could have talked forever.
Exactly. So, well, thank you for doing that. We got a lot of stuff coming up. Tonight we will do the Scumbags Wrestling Podcast, episode number 160. We'll look at Impact Wrestling and the Slammiversary card, Money in the Bank results, plus all the news coming out of that. It was a great weekend of wrestling with live fans coming back on SmackDown, Impact, Money in the Bank, and Raw. So we'll keep it going. Momentum is back. Fans are back. And hopefully some of the ridiculousness of wrestling for the last year and a half is going to be put on a shelf and maybe fondly remembered in years to come with this show. But you never know what the Thunderdome will end up be remembered as. But thankfully, fans are back, and we hopefully won't need to go back in time to a Thunderdome. But yeah, join me for the podcast. I'm not sure if Steven is going to be back yet. We're still juggling things schedule-wise. Openings in Ontario. Everybody's got jobs to go back to and things to open up. So we're juggling our schedules around and going to make sure we get our content back the way it used to be. But thank you for your support. Whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch, get your Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all the other podcasting stuff from Ontario Podcast Network, Johnner's Podcasting Network. Get our t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. Support Steven's Wrestling Journey. And yeah, a couple other things coming up in the Ontario area. A bunch of shows, so you'll know that on our podcast. And just want to remind people, Ribfest is coming up in London, Civic Holiday weekend, so end of July through the first Monday in August. And
we're allowed 2,000 people now. They've upped it.
There we go. And I heard complaints about that on
people will complain.
People complain about anything. So go and enjoy some ribs. Civic Holiday weekend is coming up in a couple of weeks. And then at the end of August, you can also go to Budweiser Gardens for the Hot Sauce Expo Heat Wave. So things are coming back. Wrestling or not, we're going to give shout outs to our friends and acquaintances and help support businesses. If you want a shout out on our show, let us know and we'll include you. But thank you for being a part of this. Thank you, Coolbet. And we'll see you next week or later on tonight on the podcast. Have a good one.